So, had another of those crazy dreams, and this time the dream, it was more awkward than last time. Something was happening, and I wasn't afraid, but I was focused, and I knew it was urgent that I get away. I was breathing harder. Some of those places, like I mentioned in the other dream, where they drop me off someplace, or like the dream just drops me somewhere and I start checking out what's going on. It wasn't even like that. I wasn't dropped someplace where I can observe and figure things out. I was dropped in the middle of something. But if it would have been people running, screaming, or something crazy, I would understand it better. I was walking really fast, and I was looking behind me and all around me. And it was like a lot of people, and it almost seemed like it was in like Japan or something, because I remember saying, like, am I in Asia or am I in Chinatown? Because the way the streets looked, the signs that were around, all the businesses were Asian. Um, so I knew, I was around that type of area. But because I'm so used to running in like warehouses and buildings, I'm looking for like a warehouse. I'm looking for something that normally happens, and it just wasn't happening like that. Not the mood, not the environments. Nothing was like it normally is. It was different. Even the mood and the air, the people were different. Everybody was like kind of huddled with someone, and they were talking to themselves almost like in a corner. Not like they were plotting, planning, not like they were trying to come up with what's going on or what's new. Or I mean, everybody just looked like they were chilling. And whatever they were talking about, it was like something they were doing, or, planning, as far as hanging out or whatever. It was like that kind of thing. It was like as if they were tourists, and there were people who were from the neighborhood, or at least from the area, if not necessarily right there. They knew where they were, not like me, or not like tourists, like they just looked very familiar with, the goings on in the area. And it was like that. And it was obvious there were tourists. It was obvious, like there were Black people, white people, Latino people, uh, people from India. So I was walking, and like I said, rushing and looking behind my back, but I don't know, whatever it was, something was happening with that body that my spirit was not a part of. And when my spirit got dropped into it, it got dropped in the middle of something, and I don't know what. I couldn't tell. I mean, for all I know, I could have just been rushing to catch the train, because there is that involved. But I just know I was moving fast. But then all of a sudden, I looked behind me and I saw my sister. And I remember saying, okay, so we're going someplace. It's not just me out here, we know, with strangers or whatever. I'm with family, and we are going someplace. But somewhere in the crux, if I can say that, somewhere along us walking, she stopped to talk to somebody, and she said, like, go ahead, I'll catch up, or something to that effect. And I tried to move my finger, like, but we gotta go, because I don't fully know what's going on. In my dreams, I normally just go with the flow, because I don't know what's coming, what's going to happen. So I just go with it. And so she was like, yeah, no, it's okay. Like, and she was like looking at me like, no, like, calm down. What are you thinking? It's okay. But I felt like she understood what I was going through, as if just popping in, moving along, and being concerned, about, you know, are we doing this, or are we in the middle of something? Or she seemed like me feeling the way I felt was a natural feeling, but she was letting me know, no, this is not that. We're good. I wasn't walking as fast, but I still had some pep in my step. And I'm kind of like a tourist because I'm looking at different things and in stores. I did notice a few people that were doing something, and when I was like about to walk past them, they kind of would turn, like they didn't want me to see what they were doing. Like one person was in the doorway smoking, and I don't know if he was smoking like weed or hashish or whatever, but he kind of like when he saw me like look at him like recognizing, oh, there's a person smoking, he kind of turned his back, like, he didn't want me to see. Like, and I'm like, I'm not a cop. Like, what was that? So I just ignored it and kept walking. And then as I'm walking, I'm not seeing anything or anybody or nothing, and I'm kind of nervous. And I said, you know what? I need to get on something or get in something. Like something needs to give because this is uncomfortable. And I was breathing, not hard, but I was breathing a little heavier than normal. And like as if, like almost not like an anxiety attack, but I guess because, when a person's having an anxiety attack, it feels to them like, no, this is real. But they'll tell you, no, it's just anxiety. It's not that something's really going to happen. And that's how I felt. I felt like I wanted to calm down, but then I better not because something can or will or may happen. And so I didn't allow myself to calm down. I just continued on. But I don't know. I was lost. And I think some other things happened in between that, fail me right now that I cannot remember. But I do remember um, it was a big cave. And then there was like a lot of us. When I say a lot, imagine a highway length amount of people, like as far as you can see, left and right on a highway. And we were like in mounds, just walking and crossing, but all of a sudden we're in the same goal. Not like before when I was walking, like, when you're in New York, people on one side of the street are walking north, people on the other side of the street are walking south. Not like that. When I was walking and feeling like I was rushing, well, it was like that, but okay, it was like that when I first started walking. But when we jumped from that to, like I said, something was missing, some time or something happened, and something is missing that I can't remember. But what I do remember after that is that, like I said, a long highway length of people were walking like towards New York or something. And I don't know why I feel like it was New York, but it just felt like we were going to New York. And I know there were it was like this big mountain that they had kind of bust open and made like a tunnel or something through. And we were looking to go through the tunnel. It was just really weird. And so we're from a far distance from it, but we can see it, and we can see the horseshoe shaped opening of the tunnel. But again, we're far. Like imagine if it's in New York and we're across the water in New Jersey. And so we know that we have to walk over there to that. That's how it was. But instead of it being water in between New York and New Jersey, it was almost like it was like a road or something. And we were on, like I said, a highway length of people in like droves, like how you see a lot of the zombies on The Walking Dead when they showed them in herds, like walking in a direction. That's how we were, but we weren't zombies. We were regular. And so we're walking, and the closer we started getting, the more you can see the mountain and the big brick, brown type of a dirty brick. not brick, but the rock of it. And I don't know where we were going and where we even thought we were going, but we knew we had to go that way. We just knew it and was already on our way. And all of a sudden, when we start to get close, someone says, okay, the steps are this way, and they start leading us. And then everyone's like, come on, because we have to get out of here. Not like everybody was scared, but just like, no, I want to get home. Come on, let's go. Not like after work either. So it's not like the after work crowd where everything is safe and I just want to get home, I'm tired. But not like, oh, there's a catastrophe, let's hurry up and run. Not like that. Somewhere in between. And so we start walking. Now we're not right by the outside of the tunnel. Now we're inside, and it doesn't look clean, but it doesn't look dirty. It looks like they're still working on it. And then someone must have asked, "What's going on?" or not what's going on. They must have asked something that made them answer instead of me trying to figure out what they asked. Whatever it was they asked, it made someone answer. Yeah, they fixed it up now so that you can get the train to go to back home to Jersey. But I'm like, we facing New York. I don't get it. But then I said, no, be quiet, because they changed the route on the trains. Years ago, it didn't used to go to Secaucus, and now it does. Secaucus, New Jersey. And now it does. So I said, maybe they did something else. That's what I'm saying to myself as we're walking this long corridor. The walls were like tiles, which a lot of the train stations used to be, and some of them still are. But the walls were like tiles. And you could, like I said, you could see they were still working on it. It was like literally workers working on it. And everybody was cooperative, especially the people. It was like we were so thankful to be able to, get on this train to be able to go home. And so all of a sudden, as I'm walking, I look and I'm about maybe 20 feet from entering the train. And I look and it's my daughter. And my daughter's grown. She's an adult. And so I look at her, I turn and I look at her, and I'm like, I want to say, hey, but then I'm like, again, in my dreams, I just go with the flow. So now I see another relative and I'm like, we're good. So now I know if we're going on a train, getting on a train from New York, going to my home versus her home, she gets off before me. And then I would get off way down the line, like 20 minutes after, depending, because it could be more. But usually it was like about 20 minutes. And so I was about to go just keep walking straight to the back, but that's my daughter. So when she turns to the right and sits because she knows she's one of the first stops, I turn and I go stand, near her thinking, we'll talk for a few minutes and then I'll walk back to my seat. But she was like, you better go back there and get you a seat. They're about to pile on here. And I said, I know, I just wanted to come and talk, real quick, and then I'll go get a seat. And she sat back and like, oh, but then she said, Mommy, you better go. You better go get a seat. So I looked back and the people literally are taking the seats. There's still a lot so I can get a seat, but they really are filling in fast. And so faster than when we were walking on the train. And so I said, all right. And I gave her a hug. And as I'm getting ready to give her a hug, I see one of my friends, Naima, that I grew up with. She gets on the train and she's like, hey, girl. And I give her a hug and stuff. And she's like, where you going? You going to East Orange? And I'm like, no. I said, my stop is way down. I said, so let me run down here and get a seat. And she said, yeah, you better go ahead. She's looking like, it was almost like getting a seat was this is how I took it. Getting a seat was important because you didn't know when we were leaving, and you didn't know how far we were going to go, and you didn't know if you would be standing for a very long time. So it's better to get a seat and, at least have something, a comfortable spot than to just assume and be standing forever. That's the way I kind of felt, because the seat thing was serious. And so, I went to the back and, and in no time, it's weird because the way that the train station looked, and I'm assuming it's a train station because of the way the outside looked like mountain, the inside looked like tile with the men working. And then when we walked on the train, it didn't look too different. I mean, you could tell it was a train because it was oblong, but it was really, 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 really wide. Like if you ever got on a plane that goes out of country and how it's much bigger than the other planes we've been getting on lately, it was like that. It was like extremely big for a train. So I went walking to the back, and I got a seat not too far back from my daughter, but not close. And I sat down on the train, and the train didn't take off right away, and I was able to look up every now and again and see her, and she would see me, and she would wave or something, and then I would see her getting on her phone, and like she was trying to make a call, and I'm sitting there, and I was saying to myself, why do I feel like I should get off the train and go with her? Like we should be together. And I couldn't get up because if I got up, somebody would have took my seat, and she would have been angry. And then like I said, the seat thing was serious, and so I sat there, but I just felt like I should go with her. We should be together because if something happens, then I can, protect her and help her. But then in real life, my daughter is saying I know she thinks I'm a little not smothering, but that I'm too cautious and too, worried or whatever. And so in the dream, I kind of felt that. So I said, no, back off, give her space because she made it here without you. So she'll probably make it home, after she parts from you, without you. And so I said, all right, and then I said, with her and Naima getting off at the same stop. So, at least I know to that point until they part, and then they have to walk, a little distance together. So at least I know, they'll be fine. They had met each other before anyway, but they were seeing each other again in my dream. And so I'm like, they'll be fine. So, I stayed in my seat. So now the train is going, and the train in New York is scary because it's underground. First of all, it's in the black. They don't even bother giving you lights. I don't know what's under there that they don't want you to see, bats and rats, and I don't know, but it's black. Once in a while, it goes outside to go over a bridge or under a bridge or something, but it's really really dark. And the train lights stay on, but I'm talking about outside the train. And so the train is going, and it's fast, and then it slows up, and then it's fast. It hasn't stopped yet. It's just going. And I'm looking over at her, and then somewhere along the line, I must have went into a daydream or started thinking about something. And I remember visually seeing something and really being deep into it for a very long time. And then when I came out of it, my head moved kind of slow, like as if I hadn't fully come out, but I was coming out of it. And so I turned my head to go look at her, and she was gone. And so was Naima and a few other people, and it was empty seats. So I said, oh my goodness, the train made some stops and they got off. I didn't even see it. And so I picked up my phone and I texted and I said, you got off the train? And she said, yeah. She said, you was daydreaming in sleep or something. And so, you don't go to sleep on the trains because people have hit people and snatched their pocketbook, wallet, camera, laptop, whatever. And so you just don't go to sleep on the trains. And so I was surprised that I did that. And so I said, let me make sure I wake up. And so I sat up, and people were coming in, on the train, and they were sitting down and they were looking, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is so weird because this is not the warehouse. This is not an empty building. This is not my grandmother's house that we end up running to. I don't know how I'm supposed to run if something happens. I don't know where I'm supposed to run. There's no police officers or nothing. There's no weaponry. Please don't let anything, this is what I'm thinking. Please don't let anything happen. And so I'm sitting there, and as we're riding, we're getting closer and closer to something that was kind of dark. And then I'm like, my heart was starting to beat a little faster because I was fine, but people were starting to and get like that. And then, it's one thing when one person does it or two people, but when a lot of people start doing it together, that's a choir. and they were getting nervous, and they were starting to like make like panicky noises. And I'm looking and I'm not seeing anything. I'm like, listen, we don't see anything. So why are we going to panic before we actually see what's ahead? It was just dark, not pitch black dark, but dark enough. The most, if at best you see a shadow, and so I just got scared and I just said, you know what? I'm not doing this. And I made myself wake up. I literally put my hand on the cover, swung it over, and made myself wake up. And so that I didn't fall, because I felt like I could fall back to sleep and I felt like something bad was waiting, like in this ride. Oh, I missed the part. As we were moving forward in the train, the front of the train disappeared. Like where I saw my daughter sitting, it was like that was the top of the capsule of the train, and that was gone. The floor was there, but the overhead wall that was shaped like the horseshoe, because I told you it was shaped just like the train station, that part was gone. And so here we are riding forward with no roof and no sidewalls or nothing in that part, like a stage. And just moving forward. And that's why I know something was about to happen and I don't know what. So I made myself wake up. And I hope that not only did I make myself wake up, but I removed myself even physically from the dream because I don't know what was happening. And I was like, again, I was not afraid. There was nothing that was happening that was making me feel in fear of my life or in fear of for myself. It was the people's reactions and how they were focused too. Their eyes were straight ahead and they were like, even if they touched somebody to the side or grabbed and hugged them or whatever, they kept their eyes forward on some, like as if they saw something. And I'm looking and I'm like, all I see is some type of like when you're like you see on TV sometimes and they show you when that sound comes and then you just kind of see these like lights or this kind of like smoke as if you're passing through really fast. That's all I saw. And I barely could see that because again it was like a really dark, not so much black, but like a really dark grayish. Like if at best you might see something that looks like it's in the shadows, but you really couldn't see. So anyway, I guess God was shielding me from seeing what they saw because I didn't see it. And even right now I'm starting to get a headache because that dream was very intense and it was not scary the least bit, but it was very what's the word I can say? It was very intense. Everybody, even though I was the one walking fast down the street, and my sister was like, "No, we're good." Like no, it's not like that. My spirit was in it like as if it's like that. We need to keep walking and moving fast and forward because it's like that. And so I don't know. It was just really weird. And the people who were standing around on the sides when I was walking down the street, even though they looked like they were good and they were comfortable and at ease and at home, whatever was their lifestyle, it made me very uneasy. Very uneasy. And I've gone to New York and been around a lot of, people from all ethnic groups. And I just come and go and I mind my business. And even look, I've been in New York and people where people were doing things they didn't have any business doing, that was illegal. And like, the parks, I don't want to name parks and places, but if you know, you know. Um, they'll have a lot going on. If you go this way, they're selling that. If you go that way, they're doing that. Everything from shooting dice, gambling, playing chess. And most people from New York really know where I'm talking about now. To people performing in the park or whatever. Like I've been places where there was so much. I've been places where the park was quiet, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it was like as if it was a carnival there and nobody's hosting anything. It's just a little bit of everybody that happened to pop up there, and now it's a lot going on. I say that to say that I've been, even now, I'm around, it's like United Nations where I live. It's a little bit of everybody. And so it's not that I'm not used to being around any particular race or group. I've done it. I've just walked around any and everybody, and it just meant nothing to me. These are people, I'm in their area, this is their group, but I'm here for a purpose and then I leave, But this place something was around. I know Satan was somewhere around there. If not him, somebody who's up to no good, doing wrong or something in some form or fashion. There was something about it that was not right. I don't want to say not kosher, not halal, not, it's something was just amiss. And so that was basically it. And just kind of reflecting back on the mood, because again, there was something about the dream that was kind of heavy. I can't explain it. It was as heavy whipped cream. Like it may not have been extremely heavy because nothing happened, but it wasn't light, you know. So that's it for this dream. And it's weird because it's at night. It's got to be at least almost 11. So it's time for bed, and it's like, okay, what are you going to dream about? But I had to come and put this dream down because I didn't want to go to sleep tonight and then dream something else, and then I didn't tell this, because sometimes my dreams are connected. And I actually started outlining a script because I felt like the dream is going someplace, and I feel like if I do a if I do a script, that I could take the script someplace. But I just haven't been able to settle down on what the story, because I haven't been able to settle down on what the dream means. And I feel like there's a connection just waiting to surface. And so that's it. I'm waiting for that connection. I'm waiting for, to understand these dreams and why I'm having them. Why am I always dumped in the middle of chaos, and having to find refuge in some warehouse or some building or back at my grandmother's house? So that's it about my dreams. Just wanted to come back and share another episode of my dreams. And like I said, let's see what I dreamed tonight. So that's it. I'm Andrea, and I'm just saying.